You ever feel your stomach drop before your heart even knows why? Naomi's laugh, loud, rehearsed, cut through the crowd like a siren. I'd been halfway through a polite nod at one of her colleagues when I heard it. That high-pitched trill she only uses when she's trying too hard. I turned toward the sound and there she was, my wife, standing too close to a man who clearly wished she wasn't. Her boss, Derek Wexler. Mid-40s, gray temples, expensive blazer with a smug smile that never quite reached his eyes. The kind of guy who thinks every room's lucky to have him. Except right then, he didn't look lucky. He looked cornered. Naomi's hand was on his forearm, her fingers lingering in a way that made my skin crawl. And Derek, he wasn't meeting her gaze. He was scanning the room. Then our eyes locked. His whole posture shifted, like I was a security camera he hadn't seen until now. He stepped back, subtly, and Naomi's smile faltered for half a second. Just long enough for me to see something ugly flash behind it. Embarrassment? Annoyance? I turned away before she could catch me watching. There was a bar set up by the floor-to-ceiling windows of the downtown hotel. I needed something in my hand, something to anchor me while the ground beneath started to feel less like carpet and more like quicksand. Bourbon. Neat. The drink burned going down, but I welcomed it. I stood there quietly, the picture-perfect husband in a button-down and tailored slacks, pretending I hadn't just watched my wife flirt with her boss like she was trying to close a deal she hadn't been offered. Brian, there you are. Naomi's voice floated toward me minutes later, syrupy sweet. She appeared at my elbow, linking her arm through mine like we just renewed our vows. I didn't look at her. Nice party. Oh, come on, she said with a smirk. You've been glaring across the room like you're at a funeral. Smile a little. It's networking, not jury duty. Didn't realize networking involved stroking your boss's sleeve like a cat. Her expression didn't flinch. That was Naomi. She didn't crack under pressure. She weaponized it. Wow, she said, sipping her wine with a soft chuckle, still insecure about the whole ambition thing. Huh? I blinked. Excuse me. She turned to face the crowd just as a few of her colleagues walked past. With the timing of a stage actor, she leaned in close and said, loud enough for them to hear, some guys chase promotions. Mine chases perfect lawn edges. Isn't that cute? They chuckled awkwardly, unsure if it was a joke or a warning shot. I felt my ears go hot. My fingers clenched around the glass, but I didn't say a word. That was the game, right? Smile through it. Stay calm. Don't give her the satisfaction. She was already walking away before I could even process it. Back toward the crowd, back toward Derek, who was suddenly very interested in his phone. I stood there for another minute. Maybe two. Then I left. Didn't say goodbye. Didn't cause a scene. Just placed my glass on the tray of a passing waiter, walked through the crowd, and disappeared into the elevator like a ghost. At home, I slipped into the guest room. She wouldn't be back for hours anyway. You want to know the worst part? I wasn't even angry yet. Not really. Just hollow. Like someone had knocked the air out of my lungs but forgot to deliver the blow. And maybe that's why I didn't confront her that night. Because some truths, they demand silence. But the real storm? It hadn't even begun. The smell of coffee hit me before I opened my eyes. Naomi always brewed a full pot, even though she barely drank a cup. Said it made the kitchen feel welcoming, like she was running a bed and breakfast and not just avoiding eye contact before leaving for work. I rolled over in the guest room, the sheets stiff, the mattress just firm enough to remind me it wasn't mine. I left the party without a word last night, slipped into the house like a man breaking into his own life, and waited. But Naomi? She didn't ask a single question. I stepped into the kitchen that morning, same as always. She stood by the island, hair still slightly damp, dressed in a sharp navy skirt suit that matched her mood, sleek, cold, unshakable. She turned and smiled like we were in a toothpaste commercial. There he is, she chirped, sliding a mug across the counter. Didn't hear you come in last night. I stared at the coffee, then at her. You didn't ask. Her smile didn't waver. I figured you just needed some air. You get a little overwhelmed sometimes in big social settings. Overwhelmed. She said it like she was explaining away a child's tantrum at a crowded supermarket. I wasn't overwhelmed, I said slowly. She sipped her coffee and raised a perfectly shaped brow. Okay. Silence settled between us. I studied her, how comfortable she looked. Too comfortable. As if mocking me in front of her colleagues was something to be proud of. As if the man standing beside her last night wasn't the reason I'd had to grip the sink just to steady my breath when I got home. Last night, I began, trying to keep my tone even, What exactly were you doing with Wexler? She didn't flinch. Networking. Naomi. She sighed, set her mug down, and crossed her arms. Brian, if this is about me touching someone's arm, then we're really stretching the definition of betrayal. That wasn't just touching someone's arm, I said. He looked like he wanted to vanish. She gave a little laugh, light, cruel. Maybe he did. He's awkward around people. Not everyone knows how to navigate a room like I do. And the comment you made about my ambition? She shrugged. It was a joke. You take things too personally, Brian. Always have. There it was. That phrase. Those 5 words she wielded like a sword dipped in honey. You take things too personally. It was how she shut me down when I asked about the way she smiled at strangers just a little too long. How she dodged every conversation about intimacy by suggesting I was overthinking. How she made me feel like the problem every single time I noticed something that didn't sit right. I slept in the guest room, I said, calmly. She didn't blink. Okay, I might sleep there again tonight. She reached for her phone. Suit yourself. You've always liked your space. The coffee tasted bitter, but I drank it anyway. I watched her gather her things, phone, purse, keys, and sling it all over one shoulder like she was heading into battle. Only Naomi never felt like she was at war. Not really. Not when she was winning. Try not to sulk too hard today, she said at the door, flashing that same fake smile. You're not built for the corporate jungle. Too soft. Then she was gone. The door clicked shut behind her. That sound, the finality of it, stayed in the room long after she left. I sat there for a while, staring at nothing, the coffee cooling in my hands. Maybe this was her strategy. Not cheating, not lying, just gaslighting me into submission, convincing me that my instincts were flawed, that I was overreacting, that I didn't see what I saw. But I did see it, and I wasn't going to unsee it just because she wrapped it in a joke. Still, I said nothing, didn't fight, didn't shout. That wasn't my role anymore. I wasn't the husband who fixed things. I was the man who waited for her to say it out loud. Because if Naomi was so sure she could do no wrong, she'd prove it all by herself. I tried 3 times that week to have a real conversation. Not a fight, not an accusation. Just clarity, some flicker of truth I could hold on to. But Naomi? She turned every attempt into a performance, and I was always cast as the unstable one. The first time, it was during dinner. We were halfway through grilled salmon, her favorite. I'd seasoned it just the way she liked, hoping maybe that gesture would soften her, open her up. Somewhere between her first and second bite, I set my fork down and said, "We need to talk about what's been going on." She didn't even look up. "What's been going on?" she asked, as if she were genuinely puzzled. "You've been in the guest room. That's your choice." "I mean with us," I said. "The distance. The tension. What happened at the party?" She set her fork down with a sigh, wiped her mouth slowly, and met my eyes. "Brian, not this again. You're spiraling over nothing. You do this. I do this." She nodded like a therapist delivering a diagnosis. "You overanalyze everything. I hugged a coworker and now we're on the verge of divorce? Come on." That conversation ended with her going back to her email like I hadn't even spoken. The second attempt came in the car, on a rainy Thursday evening. We just picked up takeout, and the windshield wipers were keeping tempo with my heartbeat. I tried again, cautiously. "Naomi, I don't want to fight, but I need to feel like I'm not crazy for noticing something's off." She chuckled lightly, scrolling through her phone. "You're not crazy, babe. Just dramatic. You've always had that artist soul thing. Sensitive." The rain hit harder. The word dramatic stung more than she realized, or maybe exactly as much as she meant it to. I drove the rest of the way in silence. The third time was last night, and I came in ready. No emotion, no pleading, just facts. I saw how Derek flinched when you touched him. That wasn't mutual. Naomi was on the couch in leggings and a blanket, sipping tea. She didn't even pause her show. "Jesus, Brian, are you really stalking my boss now? Do you hear yourself?" I'm saying his discomfort was visible. She muted the TV and turned to me, exasperated. "This again? Seriously? You're inventing stories in your head. You're always looking for drama that isn't there. Just drop it." That one? That was her favorite line. "You're always looking for drama." It was the phrase she used when she knew I was close to something real. I nodded, quietly, and went back to the guest room. But in that moment, something inside me hardened. Not anger, not despair. Certainty. Because gaslighting only works if you doubt yourself. And I didn't anymore. I knew what I saw. I knew how she deflected, redirected, minimized. And I knew she was hiding something. The question wasn't whether Naomi was guilty. It was whether she'd say it first, or if I'd have to drag the truth into the light myself. Friday evening, just after 7, the doorbell rang. Naomi wasn't home. Another late night at the office, supposedly. I'd stopped asking where she really was. She'd just laugh or roll her eyes, as if I were a child asking if monsters were real. The package was plain. No return address. Just my name, Brian Callen, scrawled in neat black marker. It didn't feel like anything. No weight. No sound when I shook it. Just this quiet, ominous thing that felt like it didn't belong in my hands. But I opened it anyway. Inside was a flash drive. No note. No label. Just that single, silver rectangle that might as well have been a grenade. I hesitated for a moment, then plugged it into my laptop. There were 2 files. One video, one screenshot folder. I opened the video first. The footage was grainy, but the setting was unmistakable. Naomi's office. Her corner window with the skyline view. The sleek glass table. And there, at the edge of the frame, was Naomi herself. I leaned closer. She was sitting on her desk, legs crossed, voice low but audible. Across from her stood Derek Wexler. Stiff, arms crossed, clearly uncomfortable. But he wasn't moving. That's what froze me. He wasn't moving away. He was staying. Naomi reached out, brushed something off his shoulder, something that wasn't there. Then she leaned in, whispering something I couldn't hear. The timestamp in the corner told me this wasn't months ago. It was last Tuesday, 9:13 p.m. 10 seconds later, Derek stepped forward, just slightly, and Naomi smiled. Then the screen went black. My mouth was dry, my chest tight. I clicked into the screenshot folder. 6 images, each one capturing moments from that video. Naomi's hand on his chest, her leaning in. Derek with his eyes closed, jaw clenched. Then, one still frame where her lips were nearly on his. None of it was ambiguous. None of it could be twisted or explained away. And yet I sat there for several minutes, staring at those images, trying to convince myself there had to be some mistake. That maybe it wasn't what it looked like. That maybe the footage was doctored. But it wasn't, because I knew that smile. The way Naomi tilted her head when she was flirting. The subtle curve of her lip when she was in control. This wasn't new. This wasn't a one-time thing. This was a woman who knew exactly what she was doing and didn't care who got caught in the fallout. I finally shut the laptop and leaned back in my chair. I didn't feel anger. Not yet. What I felt was stillness. The kind that comes right before a storm. My phone buzzed then. A message from Naomi. Late again tonight. Don't wait up. Smiley face. I stared at the screen, thumb hovering over the keyboard. I could confront her right now. Send the images. Ask for the truth she'd been dodging. Force her into a confession. But something in me resisted. Not out of weakness. Out of purpose. Because I wasn't just looking for closure anymore. I wanted understanding. I wanted the why. And more than anything else, I wanted her to say it out loud. To see herself through my eyes, stripped of the games, the denial, the performances. So instead of replying, I locked my phone, stood up, and walked to the window. The city lights blinked back at me. Cold. Distant. Honest. Unlike her. I didn't sleep that night. I sat on the couch, the flash drive still on the coffee table, like it might sprout legs and speak if I stared long enough. My mind ran through every scenario, every person who could have seen it. A coworker? Some jilted ex of Naomi's? But the footage, its angles, its access, meant someone had to be close. Too close. At 8:02 the next morning, I got a text from an unknown number. You saw the video. Meet me. Coffee bar. 10 a.m. Back patio. Come alone. It didn't feel like a threat. More like a summons. I stared at the message for a solid minute, then typed back 2 words. I'll be there. At 10 on the dot, I stepped onto the patio behind Coffee Bar. It was mostly empty, just 2 students hunched over laptops and a couple arguing quietly near the fountain. Then I saw her. Amanda Sloan. She worked in Naomi's department. Same building, 2 floors down. I'd met her once, briefly, at a holiday mixer last December. She had a sharpness to her. Tall, lean, hair always tied back, voice too steady for someone her age. She waved me over like she'd been expecting me for hours. I sat down slowly. You're the one who sent the footage, I said flatly. She nodded, no hesitation. Yes. Why? Amanda looked down into her coffee, then back at me. Because I'm tired of playing dumb. You recorded your coworkers? I recorded Naomi, she corrected. Because I knew what she was doing, and I knew it would cost me. I said nothing, just waited. Amanda sighed. I was supposed to get that promotion. Derek told me last quarter it was practically done. I'd been pulling double hours, handling half his workload, prepping budgets Naomi never touched. She tapped her fingernail against the mug. Then suddenly, she's taking closed-door meetings with him. Late hours. New responsibilities I'd never heard of. A few days later, I'm told they're going in a different direction. Naomi's direction. I leaned back, the pieces locking together. You wanted revenge. Amanda shook her head. I wanted justice. Naomi seduced her way into my future, and the company won't touch it unless they're forced. So I sent you the footage, because you're the one person who could make her admit what she is. I studied her face. She wasn't emotional. She wasn't shaking or crying. She was cold. Certain. You recorded that to protect yourself? I said. Sure, she replied. But I also did it because people like her get away with too much. Why me? Why not HR? She smiled bitterly. HR is Naomi. Or at least, she's got them wrapped tight enough. You're the only one she still underestimates. That hit deeper than I expected. She was right. Naomi didn't fear me. She pitied me, played me, and I'd let her. Amanda reached into her bag and slid a manila envelope across the table. These are the full files. Video, screenshots, timeline, everything. I didn't touch it yet. What do you want from me? I asked. Her expression darkened. Make it count. Make sure she doesn't just wiggle out of this with a smile and a new outfit. I nodded slowly. I'm not interested in destroying her, I said. Amanda leaned forward. Then what are you interested in? I looked at the envelope, the weight of it suddenly very real. Truth, I said quietly. I want her to say it. Out loud. Without spin, without a safety net. Amanda studied me, then nodded once, as if my answer passed some invisible test. Then we're on the same side. She stood, buttoned her coat, and walked away. I sat there, alone, envelope in hand. Some part of me still wished it wasn't real, that I could go home and pretend like I had all those other nights. But denial? That door had closed. Now, all that was left was how I'd open hers. I waited 3 days before I made my move. Long enough for Naomi to relax again, fall back into the illusion that I was still playing the role of the obedient husband, the one who shrugged off suspicion and blamed himself for being too sensitive. Then I sent the first note. It was simple. No name, no threat, just a small envelope slipped into her laptop bag while she was in the shower, tucked between her planner and a makeup pouch she kept for touch-ups after work. Inside, a screenshot, not the most incriminating one, just enough to make her pause. Naomi seated on her desk, her boss Derek Wexler standing a little too close. Both caught mid-motion, blurred enough to seem questionable but not outright damning. I left it unmarked. That night, she came home late, again. Hair disheveled from wind or guilt, hard to tell. She tossed her bag on the counter and muttered something about traffic. Then I saw it. The flicker. She unzipped her bag slowly, peeked inside, stopped. Her fingers hovered over the envelope like it might burn. I watched her expression shift in real time. Confusion, tension, something just bordering on panic. She didn't know I was watching from the hallway mirror. She didn't say a word. The next day, I sent another. This time, I taped it to the inside of her car door. A different screenshot, closer, clearer. Naomi reaching out to brush something non-existent from Derek's blazer. Her smile unmistakably intimate. His expression, trapped. The note underneath? You should be more careful. She was 10 minutes late getting to work that morning. I know, because I watched from the corner of our street, just out of sight, parked with my engine off. She called someone as soon as she pulled out of the driveway. I couldn't hear the words, but her hands were moving, sharp and erratic. Her voice was high, like someone trying not to scream in public. By day 4, the spiral had begun. She started checking her phone compulsively, even during dinner, then tossing it face down like it had betrayed her. Her mood turned brittle, her smile shorter, clipped. And when I asked her, ever so gently, how work was going, she said, fine, then slammed the fridge shut like the handle had insulted her. I didn't need to press further. She was unraveling on her own. The third envelope I left on her desk at home, tucked under a folder labeled Q3 Strategy. It contained the most damning image yet. Her leaning in close, lips inches from Derek's. That, and a typed message, "Your boss knows. Who else will?" She didn't speak to me that night. Not even her usual mockery, her subtle jabs about my career or my routine. Nothing. Just silence. Pure, vibrating tension that filled the house like smoke. The next morning, I heard her on the phone in the bathroom. "If this is some sick game, Derek, you better say it now. I'm not going down alone." Her voice cracked halfway through the sentence. She didn't know I was standing just outside the door, brushing my teeth slowly, listening. When she came out, she jumped at the sight of me. "Everything okay?" I asked casually, drying my hands. She blinked at me, then nodded too fast. Of course. Why wouldn't it be? That was the moment I saw it. The first crack. Not guilt. Not even fear. Paranoia. She wasn't afraid of me. She thought he had turned on her. Naomi was looking over her shoulder now, second-guessing every text, every meeting, every glance from a coworker. And I hadn't said a single word. I hadn't raised my voice once. She was falling apart all by herself, and it wasn't revenge that fueled me. It was justice, quiet, deliberate, and deeply overdue. It happened on a Tuesday. No warning, no whispered rumors. Just an all-company email sent at 10:03 a.m. Subject line, "Leadership update." Derek Wexler had resigned. Effective immediately, it read. "We thank Mr. Wexler for his contributions and wish him the best in his future endeavors." Naomi was still brushing her teeth when the message landed. I watched her glance at her phone, squint, then freeze. For a beat too long, she just stood there, toothbrush halfway out of her mouth, like the world had skipped a beat. She didn't say a word, but the silence screamed. Later that day, I passed by her office building on my lunch break. Not by accident. I stood across the street, behind the tinted glass of my car, and watched as the revolving doors spat out clusters of employees, some whispering, some laughing nervously, others furiously typing into their phones. Scandal always smells like smoke, even before the fire confirms itself. The next envelope I left blank. Just a single screenshot slipped inside her locked briefcase, this time with a timestamp and nothing more. A quiet reminder, you're not invisible. That evening, Naomi was unusually quiet. She didn't toss her heels in the hallway like usual. Didn't go straight for the wine or the remote. She just stood in the kitchen for a long time, staring at the tile like it held answers. Then, finally, she spoke. "You hear what happened at work today?" I looked up from my paper, keeping my voice neutral. "About Derek?" She nodded. "He resigned." I waited. "That was unexpected," she added. Still, I said nothing. That's when she sat down across from me, her movement slow, controlled. But there was something behind her eyes now, tension, calculation. "They've opened a probe," she said. "For what?" "Conduct. Anonymous complaints. No one knows who sent them." That last sentence hung in the air longer than it needed to. I raised an eyebrow, careful not to smirk. "You worried?" She shook her head quickly. "No, I've got nothing to do with it." She said it too fast. And then she tried to shift the conversation, asking about dinner plans, suggesting takeout, even making a weak joke about how she might finally get Derek's parking spot. But I watched her carefully. Her hands, normally still, precise, were fidgeting. Her fork scraped across her plate, rhythm uneven. She wasn't sure if the crosshairs were still on her, and that alone was enough to keep her up at night. The beautiful part? She wasn't wrong. I hadn't leaked anything to HR. Not yet. And still, she was spiraling. The truth hadn't touched her directly, but it had bruised everything around her, her mentor, her reputation, her image of control. She was walking the halls now like a queen whose court had started whispering behind her back. And yet, no one came for her. No official inquiry. No call from compliance. No badge pulled. She remained untouched. Protected. It made her even more paranoid. Naomi was smart. She knew too much silence meant something worse was coming. Or maybe, just maybe, it meant she'd already lost everything without realizing it. Because paranoia has a funny way of feeling exactly like guilt, especially when you're not sure who still believes you. It was a Friday morning when the hammer dropped. I was sipping coffee by the window when Naomi's phone buzzed 3 times in a row. That buzz, the kind that made your stomach knot even if you didn't know why. She grabbed it off the counter like it might explode. I watched her expression as she read the messages. At first, confusion. Then something close to delight. A smile, small, sharp, dangerous. "What is it?" I asked, already knowing. She tilted her phone slightly toward me, like a cat dragging home a broken bird. "Amanda Sloan. She's been fired." I raised my eyebrows, keeping my voice even. Fired? For what? Naomi sipped her coffee slowly. Company found out she'd been leaking internal communications. Breach of confidentiality. Guess she thought she was some kind of whistleblower. She laughed, a real one this time. Not forced. Not plastic. And here I thought she was just bitter about the promotion she added. I stared at her, quiet. She leaned against the counter, practically glowing. That's what envy gets you. She tried to start a fire and got burned instead. She didn't know. She didn't know Amanda had been trying to help me. Didn't know Amanda had risked her career not for revenge, but for the truth. And now Naomi stood there, basking in the destruction like she'd won something. Like it proved her innocence. But I saw the cracks. Even in her victory, there was nervous energy. A twitch in her hand when she set her mug down. The way her eyes darted, just once, to make sure I was still playing the part. Still silent. Still subdued. Still hers. Funny thing, she went on. Amanda thought she could smear me and get away with it. Can you believe that? She should have known better. You don't come for someone who's 2 steps ahead. She looked at me then, smiling, and I smiled back. But inside, something had shifted. Watching her gloat didn't make me angry. It made me resolute. This wasn't just betrayal. This was pride. Arrogance. A woman so convinced of her invincibility that she mocked the very person she'd wronged. Amanda didn't deserve what happened to her. She'd lost her job, her future, and still she hadn't said a word. No message. No call. No blame. Because she wasn't in it for the win. She'd done what she could. Handed me the truth. And trusted me to do the rest. Naomi walked past me, kissed my cheek like we were a happy couple in a magazine ad, and grabbed her purse. I've got meetings all afternoon, she said brightly. Don't wait up. The door closed behind her. And I sat there, staring at the place where she'd stood. Amanda had fallen. Naomi had celebrated. And me? I wasn't finished. Not by a long shot. It started with a letter. Plain white envelope. Certified mail. Addressed to both of us. Naomi was still in the shower when I opened it. The logo at the top was cold and corporate. Internal audit and legal compliance. Goldridge Holdings. Below it, 5 paragraphs of formal language. But I only needed the first line to know the ground was about to shift under us. Following a recent review of company conduct and discretionary performance-based bonuses. A clawback process has been initiated involving your compensation during fiscal periods Q2, Q4. I reread the line 3 times. Clawback. A nice word for we're taking it all back. The second page listed the total, $147,800. All tied to Naomi's performance bonuses, the same one she'd gloated over after her strategic reassignments began last year. The same bonuses she'd used to finance vacations, wardrobe upgrades, and that high-end espresso machine she insisted we needed to live like adults. I heard the water shut off. When Naomi stepped into the bedroom, toweling her hair dry, I was still holding the letter. She caught the look on my face. What? She asked. You look like you saw a ghost. I handed it to her. Her eyes scanned the page. Then again. Her mouth opened. Then closed. No, she muttered. No. This has to be a mistake. They can't do this. They can, I said quietly. And they are. Her grip on the paper tightened. This is retaliation. Someone's framing me. I didn't say a word. Naomi paced the room like a storm cloud. They have no evidence. There was no misconduct. The bonuses were approved, fully signed off. This is Derek's mess, not mine. They said you were part of the review process, I said. Which means anything he touched, touches you. She stopped pacing, turned to me with wild eyes. Then we fighted. I held up the second page. Their lawyers cited precedent. The repayment window's 30 days. After that, they begin asset recovery. Silence. I watched it sink in. That panic, that real, visceral fear, finally cracked her arrogance. But that's on me, right? She said, the edge of her voice sharp, unsure. I earned the bonus. I received it. I met her gaze. We're married, Naomi. Legally, we're both liable. They're coming for joint assets. That includes our home. Our accounts. She staggered back like I'd hit her. No, she said. No. You need to fix this. Fix it. Yes, she shouted. You're the planner. The problem solver. Talk to someone. Refinance. Liquidate something. I don't care. Just fix it. I stayed still. And that stillness made her explode. You're going to let them take everything because you want to teach me a lesson. She screamed. Is that what this is? I didn't raise my voice. I didn't move, because inside me, something had solidified. She thought I could fix it. But the truth? Naomi was the one who broke it. The house was too quiet when I got home that night. Lights on, music low. The kind of ambient piano Naomi only played when she wanted to seem composed. But the moment I stepped into the living room, I saw it. The envelope. The one Amanda had handed me. It sat on the coffee table, wide open, contents spilled across the glass like evidence at a crime scene. Every screenshot, every frame, every damning timestamp. And Naomi, standing beside it, arms crossed, shaking. Funny, she said, voice like flint. You always hated drama. But here you are, directing the whole show. I didn't answer. There was nothing left to hide. Her eyes blazed. It was you. All of it. The envelopes. The screenshots. Amanda was your little errand girl. I stayed still, let her fury fill the room. She pointed a trembling finger at me. You ruined me. You and that jealous little assistant. I had it handled. I had everything handled. And you, what? Needed to feel powerful for once? Still, I said nothing. Her voice rose. You think this makes you a man? Destroying your wife just to feel taller in your own shadow. I watched her break in slow motion. She swept her arm across the table, knocking everything to the floor, papers, glasses, a vase that shattered against the tile like a gunshot. I gave you everything, she screamed. I made this life. I carried us. And you, what have you ever done, Brian? Her chest heaved. Tears welled up, but they weren't the kind that softened. They burned. You were supposed to love me, she said, almost whispering. You were supposed to protect me. I did, I said finally. For a long time. She stared at me like she didn't recognize the man in front of her. You think you're noble? You think you're better than me? No, I said quietly. I just finally stopped letting you convince me I was worse. She laughed thin, bitter, humorless. You're pathetic. Then she picked up a lamp and hurled it across the room. I didn't flinch. That only enraged her more. You want out, she screamed. You want to be the tragic husband everyone pities? Fine. She stormed down the hall, came back moments later with a folder, thick, tabbed, heavy. She tossed it at my feet. Divorce papers, she spat. Is this what you wanted? I looked down, then up, and for the first time in months, I let the truth leave my mouth without flinching. No, I said, but it's what you deserved. She stood frozen. The storm she'd built finally collapsed around her. She didn't cry. She didn't plead. She just turned and walked out. The door slammed behind her, and I stayed there finally still. I didn't move for a long time. The house was quiet again, but not like before. Not the heavy silence Naomi used to fill with sharp glances and cutting words. This silence was clean, empty in a way that felt like air after rain. I looked down at the papers she'd thrown at my feet. Divorce. All signed except the final page. Her signature there, bold and confident, like she'd wanted to beat me to the ending. I picked up the pen from the coffee table, sat slowly, and stared at the last line. There was no hesitation. I signed it. It didn't feel like surrender. It felt like exhale. For years, I tried to fix something that was never meant to be held together. Naomi never wanted a partner. She wanted a mirror, someone to reflect her success, validate her ambition, and disappear when it made her uncomfortable. And I played that part for too long. Now, it was over. I packed that night, not much. Just enough for the first chapter of whatever came next. A few shirts. My laptop. The old watch my dad gave me before he passed, the only thing Naomi never tried to replace. Before I left, I walked through each room one last time. The kitchen, where her voice used to fill the space with complaints and plans I was never included in. The hallway, where she used to pace during phone calls with people she respected more than her husband. Our bedroom. I paused there. That room had become a museum of detachment. We hadn't shared real space there in months. Just proximity. I grabbed the framed photo from our honeymoon. Naomi in a white sundress, me in cargo shorts that didn't fit right, both of us pretending we knew what forever meant. I opened the drawer beside the bed and left the picture inside. No note, no words, just that moment, sealed in wooden glass, left behind. When I stepped outside, the air felt different, cool, alive. Amanda never called after she was fired. She didn't have to. She had done enough. In her own way, she gave me a choice, stay silent or speak back with stillness. I chose the latter. Naomi would survive this. She always landed on her feet. That was her gift. But something changed this time. She hadn't walked away from a marriage. She'd watched someone stop believing in her. And that's a wound that doesn't scab easily. As for me, I didn't win. This wasn't victory. It was freedom. Hard-earned. Quiet. Mine. And I promise you, once you've tasted that, you never go back. So here I am, Brian Callen, 37, starting over from nothing except peace. And maybe that's everything. If you've made it this far, tell me, what would you have done? Like, comment, and subscribe. There's always more to the story than what you see on the surface.